We start a new phase with a view of the mountains dressed in leafless trees. We are accompanied by hundreds of swarming ladybugs trapped inside this room after a long winter slumber. This had to be a good sign for a new garden. These mountains sit majestically with their blue-gray garments set to burst soon into the chartreuse and russet inflorescences of spring. When I first saw this old home, I knew it would be perfect for me, not only because I like old homes, but because I had a feeling that the yard had great conditions to grow a beautiful garden. It would take a lot of hard work to polish this place back to its former glory, but weirdly enough for me, this was more of an adventure and less of a chore. One of the first things I did was to plant out fruiting trees. To me, this is not only a symbolic gesture, but a very practical one. The sooner I got these in the ground, the sooner I will be able to harvest fruit. I went to the garden center and grabbed what they had available, although I focused on peach trees since I do like them best. It would take a few years for them to start bearing, but there would be a lot to do in the meantime, getting not only this house ready, but the neglected yard fit to become a new garden. First, I would need to prune and clear overgrown bushes and trees, remnant of past gardens, planted decades ago by families who call this house their home. I like old houses for several reasons. First, they happen to look better, in my opinion. They have harmonious lines, rhythms, and proportions that are many times lacking in modern homes. They also happen to be built of more resilient materials, right down to the type of wood used. If you ever try to cut through older wood used 100 years ago to form wall studs, joists, and even plaster lath, you will be shocked at just how much more resilient old growth pine was compared to modern lumberyard choices. But there is an even more important reason why I like old homes, and that is reducing consumption. By using structures that already exist and taking care to protect them for another century of life, we diminish the amount of resources used to create new housing. I had one philosophy in this place. I wanted to produce more, consume less, be thrifty and wise, but still surrounded by nature. That would of course include applying a bit of elbow grease. Stripping away paint from woodwork with questionable colors would not be easy, but it would be worth it. Here's a bit of advice. Think 1,000 times before painting nice woodwork, trying to follow the latest trends. Future generations will thank you for it. I wanted to make the interiors of this home harken back to a classic style, but in an eclectic post-empire sort of way. It would serve as a reflection of our current condition. A stage set, really. I wanted to deconstruct perfection, the driving ideology behind Greco-Roman classical styles, giving it a lived-in feel and frayed edges of entropy. I sense we may be living through an end of empire, since we know our reliance on non-renewable fossil fuels is starting to catch up with our modern lifestyles. Our constant assault on the ecosystems that sustain us is getting us into a vicious cycle. And all because we want brand new, disposable, shiny things that, from the onset, are planned to be thrown away. We are at a crossroads, and we can either face chaos together and act responsibly as a collective, or we can put on blinders and bask in the mythical glory of waning empires. Does this mean we should all go live in mud huts? No, not at all. But we can start by learning to value what actually has value. We can reduce and reuse and reimagine. We can learn to appreciate nature by growing our own food and caring for the land and the ecosystems immediately around us. I want to invite you to follow my journey, reimagining this old home as my new suburban homestead. Coming up in the next block, I start to get settled in with houseplants after refreshing the interior, right after this commercial. For some reason, we are living in a Renaissance age for those who love plants, specifically houseplants. It could be that we, the ever-fickle millennials according to sensationalist print media, we just woke up one day with a burning desire to be surrounded by jungle as we devour our avocado toast. I've always liked houseplants since I was a child, but I won't deny that watching summer rain oaks compels me to want more and more. There's no better housewarming gift than plants. They just make a house feel like a home. And to celebrate the new house, I went to my local nursery and got some amazing plants, house plants. But they are in small pots at the moment, and I can't leave them this way. It's the right time to repot them. I got a selection of plants, but mainly some begonias. I found some striking begonia rexes, so I had the idea, why not start a begonia collection? I do know that I can grow begonias well from previous experience, so I feel like I understand them. It wouldn't be that hard to just expand that collection, and they look amazing. They're beautiful foliage. I also got a Ficus lyrata, or the fiddle leaf fig. This is a very trendy plant, and I think it's going to look really nice in this living room. And I even got a maidenhair fern and some other plants. Now, before I start, I do need supplies. I'll need some different vases to repot them in, and also need potting soil. So let's get that. Like everything else in this house, I have been collecting vases and containers to be used as plant pots from yard sales and flea markets, paying very little for them. Of course, since houseplants are all the rage at this moment, it can be expensive to buy these things brand new, especially in hip cities like New York. But if you are willing to scavenge around rummage sales and thrift stores, you may be able to find beautiful ceramic pots for $1 or so. In fact, all of my furniture has been bought for real bargains. I like to buy half-broken old items nobody wants, restoring them myself. I'm gonna start with the smaller plants, leave this big guy last. So with soil and pots in hand, first I'm gonna see in which pot I add which plant. And one idea that I've had is to not only use regular ceramic pots as you see here with the hole, I'm gonna also use some unconventional containers like this bowl or even this mug. Now we'll get to a few details later on, but one other idea that I had was to have these plants in a composition and use an old tray as the plate that collects the water. They can even have imperfection in chips. I personally think it adds character to them. With a bit of ingenuity and patience, you can get the look of luxury while at the same time recycling things that may have been destined to the landfill. These old serving platters and trays show their age. Giving a second life to well-built objects is my motto. It's important if you have a vase with a hole to actually provide a place for the water to drain. Otherwise, you're going to destroy your furniture. So the point is to create a composition here with several different vases or pots and try to make something interesting out of that. Let me see, maybe this one and the mug. I think that would be cool. Leave this on top of a table. And let's try to match the colors here also. Maybe this begonia on this pot would be nice. Put it here temporarily. And who knows? Perhaps this one on this pot. A spider plant over here. And one of these little guys in the mug. Alright, so now that I have an idea, I can start planting. If you're excited to see how my home and garden progress through this year, don't miss all the new episodes I have planned for this season. I hope you enjoy it.